What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again. And on the phone, we got a call all the way to New Zealand. We are here with Stalker. Thank you guys for your time today.
All right. Yeah, cheers, man. How's it going, Alex?
Doing great. How's everything out there in New Zealand?
Yeah, man, it's, what time we got here? 10:30 a.m. We're awake. Friday morning. I got work in, 7 minutes ago. I was meant to start. Dave's taking a couple of hours off work, and we're talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you for using this time very productively.
Nah, fuck work. It'd be better here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's Chris here, play guitar, and then Dave here is with us as well, bass and vocals.
Awesome. We have this brand new album, Black Magic Terror, coming out this Friday. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this record was in terms of like the songwriting and the recording and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, man. So, we've been working on this for about, what month is it? Probably about a year now, actually. When we got back from our tour last year in Europe, we just finished off some of the songs, started recording, and spent the early stages of our first lockdown finishing the album. Me and Dave writing, recording it, and then lockdown lifted. We flew up to Auckland to see our friends and got the thing mixed. That was about, 4 months ago now, and we've just been cranking out these videos since.
Oh, wow. And
yeah, man.
Could the first three singles that you release off of this album, of Steel and Fire, and Intruder and so on, like, could these maybe serve as like a clear representation of like what the entirety of the album is going to sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg, as I like to say?
Well, they represent a good range, I think, a good sonic range. Like, of Steel and Fire really starts off, it's short, starts off with a bang, it's short, sharp, to the point. Intruder is a bit more, elaborate, and then Holocene's End kind of takes some new turns for Stalker, I think.
Holocene's End, it just came out 4 hours ago, the new video. So that one there is a bit different for us, which is good in a way. But yeah, those other two tracks is the first and last song on the album. So I'd say it's the tip of the iceberg, to be honest.
Awesome, and that's really good to see. Being that you mentioned you were working on this material for about a year now, is what we're going to be hearing on this material. Like, is this how the songs were originally written, or did these songs change a lot over a span of time?
Nah, they're pretty much how they were written. We've got a demo tape floating around that we want to do something with after this album's come out. I'm just kind of thinking about how we can release the demos of the album. I mean, with them, we made a demo of them all, and we quite like this demo, and I want to, most bands will have a demo of their album and then go into the studio and go fucking overproduce their their album. But as a fan, for me, I love hearing like demos of albums and bands. So I'm just saying we've got a demo of the album, and I want to do something with it after the album comes out. But so in terms of the songs changing, they didn't change at all, really. We wrote them how they are.
How would you feel if the demo version of how you released it ended up getting even more attraction and ended up blowing up more so than...
I'd be fucking stoked.
That'll save you a fortune and on time and money in the future to just...
man.
People only want to hear the demos.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Yeah, so yeah, that's something that I've been toying with since before the album was the album that you hear now in its final form. But yeah, I mean, that's just a personal thing. But I mean, surely you love demo tapes of bands, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess as the band gets more popular, that you kind of stop hearing demos and stuff, unless you're like Metallica. You have like everything fans can get their hands on.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe like this has any relationship to your previous album, Shadow of the Sword, or do you think that this is almost like a new beginning in a way for Stalker?
Good question.
I'd say it's a natural evolution of where we've gone. where we've come from. I think it's everything's a lot tighter, a lot rawer at the same time, a lot more brutal, a lot faster.
It's an interesting question, and it's something that gets raised. Well, not raised, but I think a lot. I think of often. Bands. You find a band that you like. Maybe they got a couple of albums out, and just seeing that change in a band, going from the first album to the second album to the third. It's an interesting concept because when a band comes out, they've been working on the album for a while. When the second album comes out, they've got to start scratch and follow it up. It's always I guess that's why they call it a sophomore, the dreaded sophomore album. I don't know if the words dreaded needs to be said in there, but a second album is a huge thing for a band.
Definitely, and because I feel like what it is always one of my favorite quotes is you have your entire life to make your first album, you have the rest of your life to do it again. So I think
you go. Yeah,
so
that's exactly.
Yeah, I think you're able to kind of maybe. I think really it has a lot of elements of Shadow of the Sword. It's the same band, but I think it's a continuation of an evolution.
Oh, no, that's
I'd agree there.
I'd agree. Yeah, no, that's right. But yeah, you've nailed it there with that quote because you put an album out, fans love it. They've discovered this new band. They feel like you're part of the band too because you've been with them the whole time, and then all of a sudden, the second album comes out, and you're like, well, it's it could go any way, any direction, any style, or carry on, and there's consequences to them all. I think you've got hardcore fans that just want the same thing, and then you've got others that are like, oh man, this is just the same thing. I want something new.
Yeah, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you experiment too much, you sell out. If you're consistent, you're repetitive. So in the end, you should just go with your gut instinct. In the end, that's always the right answer.
Yep, perfect, man.
Yep. Now, is there ever a preconceived idea on how you want the material to sound like, or is there a lot of trial and error and a lot of improvising involved?
Yes and no. We come into it with a lot of preconceived notions, a very narrow band of what we want, and then we'll get it into the mixing and mastering situation, and then everything after that is you need to get your ego out of the way. You need to let the songs breathe, and if it doesn't work how you thought it was going to work, then you need to be sort of adult. You need to be adult enough to be able to say that you were wrong, or let's try something else. You know what I mean? The songs are only finished once they're in the listener's ears. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you put out a song, it immediately becomes theirs.
Yeah, man, that's right.
So you've got all the time up until it's in their ears to make it the best thing you can make it, and you need to get out of your own way sometimes to make it happen.
Definitely. And I feel like if you always revolve around a preconceived idea, or if you have a goal, in the end, you're always going to be just disappointed in the end anyway. So it's best to kind of let the songs, in a way, write themselves as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to be flexible. You need to, like you said, you need to let them write themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they will tell you. If you listen, they'll tell you where they need to be, where they're going, the best direction for it.
Yeah, and I feel like with this album, too, from listening to it, I feel like you need to start off with Of Steel and Fire and end with Intruder. I mean this as a compliment. I don't consider the album to be shuffle-friendly, as I like to call it. I feel like if you're going to have one song, you need to have the other ones on it as well.
It's a hard thing picking a song to represent an album when, you didn't even... That's something you don't even think about until the end. When the label was like, all right, what songs do you want? We were mixing the album. We didn't even fucking have a clue. It could have been any songs.
Yeah, you got to treat every song in the writing process now as if it's a single.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Now, when
I'm totally not against that. I like the idea of just releasing singles. I'd like to explore that.
Yeah, well, there's some bands out that just have a career of just releasing EPs as well to kind of constantly leave people wanting more.
Yeah, I mean, what that does, though, is that would generate so much more work for us as a band. We do most everything ourselves, so it's you'd only get to write 3-4 songs, and then you've got to, you got to start releasing it again. So that gets you further and further away from making the music, which I'm against.
Yeah, you kind of want to.
Idea. If I had help.
In saying that, we haven't touched our instruments or written anything new for a long time because of all the admin and work that goes into an album after the fact you've finished writing it and recording it.
Yeah. And when it comes, and on top of that, like, you also want the material to be sincere, and that's what I think is really cool, is that, like, the album has kind of like a rawness to it as well. So, like, you kind of want to feel the same way when you finish an album as you do when you start it, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're right. We did capture that. There were some maybe not errors, but maybe happy accidents would be a good way to put it. There are some. It's not a perfect album, which I think coming into it. I remember coming into it, I wanted to avoid having a overly done, overly baked album. I needed a rawness. I don't enjoy listening to records that are, that are just too produced into the ground. I need I'm much more happy listening to people's demos, for example.
Yeah, because that's how you know the band is true.
And everything sucks, like lots of bung notes and guys, lots of noises in the background. Somebody dropped his drink.
But that's our opinion, and you got to remember that a lot of listeners and a lot of people that listen to music out there are used to listening to, I guess, perfect albums and the sound, the playing, heaps of that kind of thing. The older I get, the more I want to hear demos, rehearsals, live.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd imagine you also try to capture, like, the live energy into your records as well, right?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
And on top of that, you guys are a 3-piece as well. So, just having guitar, vocals with bass and drums, like, I feel like there's almost nothing to hide behind either as well, right?
Exactly. We're definitely conscious about that writing. I mean, it would have been great and easy to write, 10-part harmonies for the guitar and things like this, but then there's no way you're going to pull that off on stage.
Nah, it's all about recreating it.
Yeah. But is there maybe, so therefore, being that you try to capture that raw energy, would you say that maybe playing live and playing in the studio or even simply practicing, is there a similar energy in the two of them since your music is so raw, or is it also a completely different mind frame altogether, playing live versus songwriting?
I think it's the same thing.
I think when we're writing, the core of where we're coming from is that we're imagining ourselves on stage.
100%.
So if it doesn't work in your mind's eye, being on stage, then like we've written tons of things that haven't made it past that. Objectionably good riffs. Like great riffs. That's a great riff, but would it work on stage? Does it have that raw power?
Yeah.
No. So we ditch it. I mean, that's fine. Like I said, you got to get your ego out of the way and.
Yeah, every song might not be played live, but that's how they're approached. Definitely, when writing is this going to work in a live setting?
Yeah, you're not going to write something that you can't execute live.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like the better way to put it would be like, does it take the listener to that space, to that headspace? Can you, as a listener, picture yourself fucking getting your head snapped in the pit?
Yeah, I saw those. I was looking at your Facebook earlier today, and I saw the picture of that guy who looked pretty messed up, covered in blood on the face and everything like that.
Yeah, man, that was a good show. That was a really good show.
Yeah, it's always a good show when there's blood. That's metal as fuck.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yep. And on top of that, I feel like your music, like, I see elements of thrash metal, I see elements of, like, speed metal and, classic rock as well. And, I mean, you guys played a show, I remember, with Uda, which is, like, straight up black metal. Like, I'd imagine that you've played in front of your fair share of different types of audiences as well, right?
Yeah, man. So that one down. I mean, that was in Australia and in New Zealand, and I guess Australia too. We don't have the scenes to just have a thrash lineup and a thrash crowd. We have a lot of mixed genre shows, and in New Zealand and Australia, but the thing is, I guess the good thing is that a lot of these people that are into like extreme metal and stuff, I mean, I guess they grow up listening to classic heavy metal, and I mean, everything kind of relates back to classic heavy metal, so it's kind of no matter what metal genre you're into, everyone loves classic heavy metal done right?
If you talk to a heavy metal elitist, I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that their first album as a 4-year-old kid was Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse.
Exactly.
Maybe kids growing up these days.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, just maybe. I mean, death metal, guttural death metal versions of Frozen songs.
Yeah, but you're right, man. You're right. So, so that can work in our favor.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
can jump on any bill, I think.
Yeah. And actually, the final question I wanted to ask you is kind of revolving around the New Zealand metal scene, because it seems like a lot of great bands have been coming out of. I know New Zealand is like a small country, but Alien Weaponry has been doing really good right now. Ulcerate is from New Zealand, and they've been killing it. You have so many great bands. Antagonist AD. Is there kind of like a scene in New Zealand that you guys are affiliated with, or is really the goal for Stalker to kind of maybe get outside of New Zealand more and to play to different types of audiences?
The thing about New Zealand is we don't have a population. We don't have the population to hold, as Chris was saying, to hold a scene necessarily. So any level of success here in New Zealand is relative. If that makes any sense. So if you want to make it big in air quotes, you need to go overseas. You can only play to the same 150 people every month.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, and people are going to get bored of you.
So
only so many times your mom's going to come to a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're right, man. There's always been good bands coming out. Ulcerate been fucking at it for years, and they are absolutely fucking fantastic.
Their new album is so amazing. I cannot get enough of that album.
Yeah, man. So you've got a lot of death, black, and war metal coming out of New Zealand. Vassifor, Hirishiak, some really good bands, and that's what's great about social media and the internet is anyone can fucking find anything and get into it.
Yeah.
No matter where you're from, the good shit always rises to the top. And so there's that. In terms of genre-based scenes here is quite small, as Dave was saying. But mixed genre shows here are great, and that's what we do. It's not uncommon to have a black metal band, us and some punk bands and shit like that, which is fucking great. Mixed audience. But in terms of blowing up outside of New Zealand, man, I think you've either got to be like a commercial metal band, like a pop, like Alien Weaponry, for example. They're like ticking all the boxes for heavy metal commercial success in 2020. As metal trends go, but in terms of the underground bands, I guess it's just how much they want to do it, because it's hard, man. It's a lot of time and effort, to get out of New Zealand and be seen in front of people.
Yeah.
Heaps of underground bands have done heaps of tours in Europe and built up an audience that you'll never even hear about being mentioned when they talk about bands from New Zealand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I like the concept, though, that the music down there is not so compartmentalized. Like here in New York, we have a hardcore scene, we have a black metal scene, we have a death metal scene, we have a rock scene. But I think really the future of music is just genreless to begin with. So I really like the concept of you guys playing with bands that sound nothing like you. I think you get more variety.
I think you're right, and I think we've already been doing that for quite a while because that's all we've got.
Yeah, we've been forced to do it, but actually it's really, really healthy.
But you know what? When we go to Europe and shit, you know, we will just play in front of a thrash metal audience, and it's fucking sick.
Yeah, but you know, before you know it, you'll be doing a tour with Celine Dion.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, as long as
she's got land down here, I'm pretty sure, near Christchurch.
Oh, there you go. Talk to the promoter. Let's make this shit happen.
I'll just go down and talk to her.
Okay.
Say Alex us.
But like, I just like the idea that like, you know, people don't get to choose what music, like, or, you know, obviously everybody should listen to what they like to, but like in the end, you have a thrash metal band, you have a punk band, you have a pop band, you have a rock and roll band. Just listen to all of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I run a risk if I'm given too much choice. I'll run the risk of just of not being exposed to a killer band just because I've made a predetermination of you know what I'm going to expect. When actually, like, I could have had the fucking best time of my life listening to a hard rock band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you guys so much for your time today. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear this brand new album. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote? Obviously, you know, thanks to a certain bullshit virus that shall not be named. Obviously, you know, shows aren't happening at the moment, but could there be some live streams in support of Black Magic Terror or anything like that?
It's funny you should say that because we've got our the album release party next Friday here in our hometown.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so we've got no restrictions, so we're looking for a good night next Friday. Hopefully film a bit of it and you can see some of the show. But, man, I want to thank you, Alex, for your time and your support, man. It's fucking been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
We just had a new video come out 4 hours ago, the last single, so I want you to go and check that out after this interview if you've got some time. It's our, I reckon it's probably our best thing that we've done. We put a lot of work into this this video. Dave had this idea, this crazy idea, and somehow I think we pulled it off. And I hope that you had some fun watching it.
I'll definitely check it out. Thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Stalker, Black Magic Terror, coming out this Friday. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.